Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Spectacular Comics and More. My name is Moses, and today I want to talk to you guys about my personal guidelines I use when I'm determining whether or not to send a book into CGC or CBCS to be graded, or honestly, any grading service of your guys' choice. Now, I don't want to take full credit for this video. I want to give a shout out to someone in the comments. He actually asked me to make a video similar like this so you can decide what books to send to CGC, so I want to thank him for that feedback. And honestly, I like reading comics and I like making comic book videos, so this was a really fun one to do. And I'm sure some of you guys are aware that my video turnout has been a bit slow. I've been trying to do a 3 to 4 day video upload schedule, but last week I had a lot of things to do. As you guys can see, I have a whole new setup that took a while to do. I've been trying to fix my audio issues, and I'm trying to fix my audio issues on my older videos as well. So hopefully this works. Hopefully this sounds a lot better, and I'll be looking to improve as I move forward. So let's jump into this. Let's talk about what I normally do to decide whether or not I'm submitting a comic to CGC or CBCS. The first thing is, I submit what I like. And I know that sounds like a very vague answer, but I like grading what I like. I like grading the books that either had an emotional impact on me, a book that I thought looks really cool, a book that I want signed. As you guys can see in the wall behind me and all the books I have in front of me that I'll be showing you, I like gold label or yellow label books. I love signature series. Something about it resonates with me, and that's the kind of collector I want. I think of all the graded books, I think I have 5 or 6 to 1 ratio of signed versus unsigned books. So that's one of the things I like. So I keep an eye on who's having a signing. I got my book signed at my local shop by Frank Miller, and it was authenticated by CGC. I went to Phoenix Comic Con back in the day and got Batman New 52 issue number 1 signed by the 3 creators. So we went to the convention for that. Or more recently, I just look to see what CGC is doing on their website or CBCS, and then get those books signed there that way. So I'm looking at it daily. So I'm not sure if you guys have looked at it recently. CGC in the past 3 weeks have added a plethora of artists to be signed, to have these books signed. They have Michael Keaton, they have Jim Lee, they have Max Sinclair, they have so many. So that's one of the things I use to determine how I'm going to get my books graded. Now, I don't only get books signed. I do just submit books that are to be graded, but honestly, it's usually because they have some kind of impact, or I just really like this cover. This issue of Invincible Iron Man 512 is one of my favorite Iron Man covers. Venomized Iron Man is great. And it came back at a 9.4. A lot of these books I just want in high grades, especially for modern books. So one of the things I use to determine it is, if I see it raw, will I get a high grade on it? And to be honest, I'm probably gonna have to do a whole separate video about how to determine the grade of raw books or even slab books to see if it's right, see if you can CPR it, crack press, and resubmit it, or just send in a book raw. That's a whole separate subject, and I'll probably be touching on that in this video, but I'll probably make a whole separate video about that. But sticking to this, I grade what I like. Like I said, I like that book. Here's another example. Non-Stop Spider-Man issue number 1, signed by David Finch. This is easily probably my favorite modern Spider-Man cover. And it's kind of making its way to its top 3 covers of Spider-Man in general for me. So the fact that David Finch, one of my favorite artists, is signing my favorite superhero with my favorite superhero cover, that just checked all the boxes. I didn't even care if I lost money at that point, because I want to hang this book on my wall. I will as soon as I get more wall mounts, but I wanted to hang this, so I said I'm immediately going to do it. Now, altogether, this book is $5. It's not a key in any way, shape, or form. So I think altogether, after shipping, submitting, signing, all that stuff, it's probably about $120. Ironically, I did look to see how much this book cost, adding 9.8, sold, signed by David Finch. It's going for a little over $250. So I happened to make money, but that was not the goal of that book. And honestly, those are probably just very situational buys anyway. So let's look at another one. Batman issue 700 at an 8.0, signed again by David Finch. This one, I 100% lost money. But I really wanted this book in a 9.2, 9.4-ish, and it came back in 8.0. This is probably one of the biggest whiffs I've done on this channel. This is the nicest 8.0 I've ever seen in my life, I've got to be honest. But it's kind of a problem, because now I have this book that I like by an artist that I like, and now I've guessed wrong on this book. So now, honestly, I'm going to sell this book because I don't want this book at an 8.0. So getting books that I like graded and slabbed and hopefully signed, those are things I like getting graded and submitted to CGC. Now, another thing I also like getting graded are really unique books. And here's what I mean. I have the what looks like an ordinary Superman issue 204 signed by Jim Lee Sinclair and Scott Williams. I showed this off in the video before, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this one. Came back at a high grade, 9.6. Now, this book is a $3 book, or $2, something like that. However, this is the newsstand variant, and honestly, there's hardly any data on Go Collect or even less CGC on this book. So as far as I can tell, this might be the highest signed newsstand graded copy ever. And that's why I wanted it. So I wanted to make sure I got a really high grade newsstand that was triple signed, and even to add a little bit more, character to this book, these are 3D signatures. I don't think a book like this exists. Another one I like getting graded. I showed this one, I think it was on one of my very first videos. Gotham City Sirens, issue number 1. I believe this is the first or second appearance of the Gotham City Sirens. I think it's the second, but it's their whole issue number 1. And it's definitely their first cover appearance. So the funny thing about this is that the second print is more valuable than the first print. This is the second most valuable cover of this book. I don't like the variant cover, which is why I chose to get this one, but also I chose to get this one because this is the highest graded copy that is signed on the CGC census. So another one that I have the most valuable version of that book. To me, those are fun to do. I like to do that. I got a 9.4, graded, looked like an easy press, cracked it, CPR'd it. Again, I don't know who came up with that term, but cracked, pressed, resubmitted, and then signed by Paul Dini. So that is a very unique book, and I love getting books that are unique. And while we're on the topic of CPR, let's talk about some times that CPR has gone wrong. I'm probably gonna make another video about this entirely as well, so I'll just give you 2 examples. One I've shown on this channel before. This is X-Men. I'm getting really bad luck with X-Men number 1s. I just won all of them in the 9.8, but my God. This is X-Men issue number 1, signed by Chris Claremont. I got this book at a 9.6 the very first time. And I said, this is an easy, I think, 9.8. So I cracked it, pressed it, submitted it, sent it to Chris Claremont to get signed, came back in a 9.0. And so that was a huge whiff, especially behind me that you can see I have one at a 9.6 already. So I didn't need, this book hurts. This book just hurts. The only silver lining in this is that I actually think they sent me the wrong book. Because the greatest notes don't reflect what's actually happening here. So I'm going to talk to CGC, and hopefully that gets fixed. Another big one. Last year, Scott Campbell was doing a signing. So I decided to buy this book. This came out a little bit before Black Panther, but it was actually a pretty decent deal. So I actually wasn't too mad. I probably paid a little bit under fair market value. So for a spec book with a movie around the corner, I consider that fine. This was a 9.4 when I got it slabbed. So then I decide to crack it, press it, because it looks like a 9.6, and then I see a cut on this book. I'm not sure if you guys can see that. It's kind of hard, but I also don't want to peel it too much. But there is a scissors cut in this book horizontally that covers the first page, the first 4 pages as well as the covers. Cut straight through it for a good, looks like a centimeter and a half deep into the book. Now, it is really hard to see this because I messed with this book like 3 times and I didn't see it to my last one until I was prepping it for a signature. This book cannot be a 9.4, let alone a 9.6. It is a 7 at best with that cut. So I now run the risk, now that I've ruined the slab and that slab is useless, I can either try resubmitting again for just to get the 9.4 back. So I'm just paying just to get what I originally paid for, or I could pay to get it signed, but also run the risk of this getting, honestly, I don't even know what damage that causes. I don't know, is that a 3-point loss, 2-point loss, 4? I don't know. But if someone sees this when I go to resubmit it, now I've lost so much money just to get it signed and then regraded at a much lower grade. So CPRing isn't always the right option. As many books as I've had good success stories where I've CPR'd, I've also had really bad stories. That Amazing Spider-Man issue number 300 on the wall right there, it says a 9.4 if you guys can't read it. That was originally a 9.2. CPR'd it, got it signed by Todd McFarlane, and came back a 9.4. So that was a great success story. I've just had interesting luck with CPRing books. But I digress. How do I decide what other books to send in? Well, this is mostly it. There's kind of an equation that goes in my head with there's an emotional part of it and a financial part of it. Do either one of those outweigh the actual cost? So for instance, I have, The New Teen Titans, issue number 2, the first appearance of Deathstroke. I love this book. And when I got online, I got it raw, obviously, and when it came back, there were just a bit more dings than I could see. I thought it was pretty thorough, but I missed some things. It happens. And what I thought was now a 9.4, 9.6 contender looks more like a 9.0. Personally, the amount of money I put into the book wouldn't justify me sending in to get graded the extra $45 that's going to take just to get this book slabbed at a 9.0. It might get a bit higher, maybe 9.2, but that's not what I was going for. If I thought this book had a good shot of being a 9.4, 9.6, I would absolutely send it in. But because it doesn't, I don't want to. And like I said, it's really hard to explain why without going into what's a pressable defect, what are defects, how much defects hurt books. I'll make another video about that, and CGC has some really good guides on it now. They finally started releasing videos on their own YouTube channel about it, and they have a grading guide about how to identify what can hurt your comic when you submit it. So they've been better with transparency. And finally, one of the last things I'll be using to find out what I'll be grading is the trade potential. Let's look at this book. Daredevil issue number 168, the first appearance of Elektra at a 9.4, signed by Klaus Johnson and Frank Miller, the authors and the illustrators. That is a really, really good key with a really good signature and a really good grade in my opinion. Now, personally, I don't care for Daredevil very much, but I can't lie, I do like this cover. But personally, I don't care for the character or stories very much. Nothing against Daredevil, just not my preference. This book will mean a lot to somebody, and that somebody might have a book that means a lot to me. So I could possibly trade them for this book, and then they can give me a book in return. If I wanted, I don't know, The Dark Knight Returns issue number 1 and 9.8, I know I have 9.6, but I really want 9.8, and that was signed by the same two people, and they said, would you want to trade this? I have to look at the value of the books, of course, but you know, I want that more than I want this, and they might have a hard time finding a book this specific. So that's one of the other reasons I do like keeping books that may not really resonate with me or my collection, because it's always a good opportunity to trade that book within the community. There's lots of good places you can trade books. I started doing that a bit more, but yeah, those are the key reasons I submit books. Whether I really, really like the cover, whether I want to bump up the grade, maybe it's a good trading opportunity, or maybe it's just a very unique book on its senses that really captures my eye. But those are the main reasons I grade books. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more updated content. Thanks, guys.